you know, that's, yeah, my instinct, my imagination tends towards the tragic. My wife, her imagination is very comedic, you know, so we're like comedy and tragedy in my house. And I'm thankful I have movies, because if I didn't have movies to express my imagination, my life would be really messy, you know? So that's my natural inclination, is tragedy. But at the same time, I'm a natural optimist as well. And so I had I went through 37 drafts of this script over 6 years, and the thing, I did have Jason make a number of choices at the end of the movie, and I had to think about what I wanted to put into the world. You know, one of the first choices that he made was vengeance, and I thought that would be probably satisfying to an audience, but not something that I necessarily wanted to put into the world. I mean, yes, this is talking about his choice when he gets the gun. You know, there's only 3 shots that are fired in this movie. You know, so where is his shot gonna go? You know. Then I started thinking, I don't want to put vengeance in the world. Do I want to put suicide into the world? Do I want to put hopelessness? But I'm not cynical. You know, I believe in, you know, I'm a hopeful person. So the only way I could think around it was forgiveness. You know, that was the natural thing that I felt like I could put out into the world. And that my kids are always asking me, they're saying, Dad, why don't you make a movie that we can see, you know? And the thing is, I'll be happy to have them see this movie when they're of age, you know? If I ended it any other way, I wouldn't have been.
Sir, how did you find the 2 young actors of the third story?
Yeah, that was, you know, casting this movie is incredibly difficult because of this structure, you know? I mean, Psycho is only great because Janet Leigh is so great, and then she passes on to Tony Perkins, who is even better than her. So I have to do that with Ryan, to Bradley, and then once again to the kids. And I have these kids, who do you know? Like, they have there's no familiarity yet with them. There is with Ryan and Bradley. As an audience, you can trust them. So I had to find kids that I felt were the next generation of that. And I looked at so many kids, and I finally found, well, I'll say this, Dane DeHaan, who plays Jason, my casting director thought he would make a good AJ, Bradley Cooper's kid. But Dane read that script and said he didn't like AJ, that he felt more in line with Jason. So he put himself on tape as Jason and sent it to us. And my casting director said, there's this really great actor, but he doesn't want to be the role that I think he should be. And I said, well, he's kind of arrogant, don't you think? And she was like, yes, extremely. And I said, yeah, well, let's just forget about him and let's find a team player who wants to make our movie, you know? So I was like, put him on the back burner. Meanwhile, I spent 3 months looking at 500 kids, and I was not finding the person. And I was 6 weeks out of production, and I was getting desperate. So I finally caved in, and I said, let me take a look at that tape. And I looked at the tape, and it was the guy. It was Jason. And I called him up on the phone and basically said, look, I will believe in anything that you say or do because I was wrong and you were right. You know, so would you come please be in the movie? Now, something that happens in Hollywood a lot is this chemistry reading, where you get 2 actors together, like we are together, and you just see how their chemistry is in a casting room. So I had about 12 kids come in to sit opposite of Dane, and all of a sudden walks, you know, the 8th kid of the day. In comes this kid, Emery Cohen, and him and Dane were sitting next to each other, and I could sense this. They were like 2 young wolves, you know, that were kind of sizing each other up, 2 alphas, you know, and it was tense in the room. And so I said, okay, let me throw an icebreaker question to you guys out. I said, who's your favorite actor? And Emery says, no question, Marlon Brando. And then Dane says, well, I always liked James Dean. And then they proceeded to argue for 15 minutes about who was better, Marlon Brando or James Dean. And I just sat back and said, this is exactly the dynamic that I need in the film. That's it. So after 15 minutes, I said, okay, hey guys, let's agree to disagree. You like Brando, you like James Dean. I said, name another actor. You first, Dane. And Dane says, well, I always liked Al Pacino. And it was De Niro. And I was like, these guys are cut from the cloth.
How old are they, by the way?
Dane was 26 years old when we shot this movie, which was, I asked him, I said, I was concerned. I was like, can you play Eva Mendez's son? And he said, yes. And I said, okay. And then I said, can you play a high school kid? And he said, yes. And I said, okay. I believed him. You know, all of filmmaking to me is trust, because it's all collaboration between artists. And that's, you know, you have to trust yourself and you have to trust the people that you work with. Yeah.
gentleman was asking about the Avery family, the connection, judge, DA, what do we call his son in high school?
He's kind of a punk, you know. To me, it's all about attention. You know, he to me is a very pained child who never had a father to love him, to care for him, to look at him, to be there for him. He was actually written based on a kid that I know on my street, on my block in Brooklyn, who came from very successful, wealthy, powerful parents who were just always more interested in their own careers than him. And this kid needed some attention, so he was going to get it in one way or the other. And his attention, the way he gets it, is through negative attention. You know, this common thing with a lot of the cops I've talked to is like, why do people cause crimes? The majority of cops I talk to say attention. You know, people need some attention. So I just think he creates this front. And definitely in working with Emery Cohen, who plays that kid, he was so pained the whole movie. And actually, as I watched the movie, I know he's a very, you know, his character is, you know, he can be easily written off as a villain or whatever, you know, because you kind of hate him. But I also, my heart breaks for the kid because I see what he's missing, and everything the only thing he needs is just his father to look at
You sure
him.
get that at the end when he comes up to the
On the stage.
campaign stage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gentleman back there, I had his hand up. Yes, sir.
How did you choose Mike Patton to compose the music for the film?
Mike Patton, the composer. When I was a teenager growing up in Lakewood, Colorado, my brother had gotten me a Mr. Bungle album for Christmas one year, and I listened to it on repeat in my Mustang too, until the tape broke. And then I saw a Mr. Bungle show, a live show one time when I was like 16 years old, and Mike Patton was on stage and he was wearing a bondage mask and he had horse blinders on the side, and he was singing Time by the Alan Parsons Project to a room full of metalheads. And he got down on his knees and he started licking the bald head of the security guard in the front row. And as an impressionable teenager, he became my hero very quickly. And I would make student films or home movies and set his music to those to those movies, and I would show up to every show he had, whether it was Faith No More or Tomahawk or Bungle or Fantomas over the year. I'd always wear these army pants, and I'd always keep video cassettes or DVDs of my movies in my pants to give to him. I'd wait by the stage, and I never met him. I met Trevor Dunn, the bass player for Bungle, one time, and gave him a tape. But it was a lifelong dream. And then, I feel like if you have an opportunity to make your dreams come true, you should. And so I had an opportunity to work with him, and I did it, and it was great. Another, hero of mine, dream. When I was a kid, I didn't really have pictures of like girls on my wall. I had pictures of like Ray Liotta on my wall. And
For Goodfellas or?
yeah, Goodfellas. I had Goodfellas all over my wall. And then, my co-writer and I, Ben, found out his favorite movie was Goodfellas. So on our first meeting, we said, let's make a movie and let's write a role for Ray in it. And then all of a sudden, flash forward 5 years, Ray was at my house having steak dinner with me and my family, and he's going to be in my movie, actually. And it was, well, the funny thing about Ray, I introduced him to my 4-year-old son, Cody, who inspired this whole movie. And within 30 seconds of meeting my son, Cody was bawling, just in tears, because Ray is like a human knife. He's the scariest guy on the planet.
That came through. Yes, sir. Can you discuss the character of Kofi?
Yeah, I mean, Kofi is if there's one person in this movie that I think is a person to aspire to be like, it's Kofi. He's the one who does the right things in the movie, and he's and especially as played by Mahershala Hajbaz Ali. I think he's really, one of the most soulful and kind of true characters on that screen. In terms of Jason's story, you would think it would be enough just to have a consistent, stable father like him, but I think that character of Jason was also based on someone that I had done a documentary on, who had grown up and his mom had lied to him when he was a kid, said that his father was killed in a car accident, and his whole life he always knew that there was something wrong, something being kept from him. And when he was 17, he found out that his father was killed in a drug deal, you know, and then it was like the thing that was always screaming at him inside came out to be true. So, you know, no matter what stability was provided for him by his family, it still wasn't enough to take over that nature, you know. And then in terms of money, I mean, I have a weird relationship with money. I feel like it's a corrupting force, you know, and you know, I was interested in having this money be this thing that is usually the treasure, but now it's the thing that you can't get rid of. It's the thing that everyone's trying to give to someone else. Take it off my hands, you know.